Hey guys, Sam here. This is going to be a real quick first look, first impressions type short review of the new BR2500 Ballistic Rangefinder from G7. Okay, the unit itself is about 5 by 5 by 2 inches thick. It's a little over 14 ounces. It is IP55 water resistant. So basically what that means is that it is fairly waterproof, but you can't submerge it. Now I've been told by Gunwerks or G7 that it will withstand rain no problem. It will stand condensation, hot to cold, things like that. I haven't tested that yet, but that's coming up soon. So it runs on one CR123 battery that you access right here in the front, very easy to replace. It's rated for 8 hours of continuous use. I don't know what that translates into number of ranges, but I haven't had any problem with battery life. It's a 7-power optic. It actually has very good glass in it. As far as quality, it's optically speaking, it's very high quality. I haven't had any problem with seeing stuff, as far as I can see at least, at 7 power. It has a focus ring right here on the back so you can focus in on your target. It comes with a tethered cap to protect the ocular side. The ocular side has click detent so you can run it in and out. So if you wear glasses, no problem, you can just run it in. If you don't, you can run it out and it'll stay in place. It has a tether hooked to it. The carrying case has a retractable deal inside of it. You can hook to that. So when you pull it out of the carrying case, it's kind of got this spring tension. You can pull it out, and if you get in a hurry or get excited or whatever and let go of it, it'll stay hooked to that pouch. So that's kind of a cool feature. Okay, another cool thing about this rangefinder is it has a built-in 1/4-20 socket right in the bottom of it, so you can hook a tripod head or whatever. I have my detachable Manfrotto plate hooked into it so I can put it right on my tripod. Very good feature for long distance ranging of targets. Okay, a little full disclosure. This is actually the second unit that I've looked at. The first one worked spectacularly. It was great little rangefinder. I didn't have any problems with it. I took it to Wyoming. But one of the things I noticed when I was doing my standard reticle versus laser beam alignment test is that it was offset a little bit down to the bottom left corner of the reticle. So as long as we're talking about that, let's talk about laser beams. This has a 3/4 mil by 1.5 mil laser. So the beam divergence is pretty low on this. It's quite an improvement over the last one. It's laid out horizontally, so it's exactly twice as wide as it is tall. But the thing I noticed was that the laser was actually down on the bottom left corner and overlapping the reticle. So Gunwerks is great to work with. I brought it up with them. I said, no big deal, I can use it as is because I understand where it is. I took it to Wyoming, bounced some antelope over 1,000 yards with it out in the sagebrush. So, from a functional standpoint, it was no big deal. But they said they'd prefer just to send me a new one. And this one I just got 3 days ago, and it is spot on. It is right in the money, right in the middle of that reticle. So, full disclosure, this is the second one I've looked at, and I have yet to get this one out to its max range. I just bounced a tree at 2,119 yards straight away from the camera there with sun on it and everything. So I have no doubt that this one will get to 2,500. The unit itself is rated from 10 to 2,500. The other rangefinder, the first one that I got, the first night I took it out in the woods, I bounced 2,500 yards with it. So it will get there. As far as the short distance, I've actually ranged down to 8 yards with this one already. So it'll go a little bit lower than 10, so if you're an archery hunter, no problem there. Okay, this reads in yards only. There's actually a meters version of this that Gunwerks exports out of the US. They told me that they're going to make it available very soon in the US market as well, so if you're looking for one that reads in meters, it's coming. But this unit only reads in yards. You can't toggle back and forth between yards and meters. Okay, this is a ballistic rangefinder, meaning that it has the capability to provide you with a ballistic solution to shoot long range. It will give you a correction out to 1,400 yards, and you can set it up to give you the correction in either a bullet drop compensator, so if you have a turret or a reticle that's designed to shoot to different yardages depending on what the conditions are, it'll give you that correction. It'll also give you a straight up correction in minute of angle, mil radians, or in drop inches, so a number of inches drop to the target. It'll give you corrections for. I use minute of angle, so I have it set up to give me a straight up minute of angle correction, and it'll give you a correction to 1/10 MOA resolution. So in other words, 24.2 minutes of angle, 24.3 minutes of angle, it'll give you those corrections. It'll also give you a wind correction. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty, I don't want to say a crude setup, but it is basically a 90-degree full angle wind correction, and it'll give it to you from 5 miles to 30 miles per hour in 5-mile-an-hour increments. So every time you range the target, it gives you your elevation correction, and if you hit this front arrow, it'll give you 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, or 30 every time you push that button. So at least you have something. What I've been doing is I just leave it on 10, so when you range something and hit that arrow, wherever you were the last time is where it's going to be, and I leave it set on 10 miles an hour. And then I just use that, you know, if I have a 45-degree wind or a 90-degree wind, but it's 8 miles an hour, then I'm going to use 80% of that, and so forth and so on. So at least it's there right in the unit. Okay, to give you those corrections, you have to have a gun profile built into the unit. So right inside this, you build your gun profiles. It'll store 5 different ones. Each gun profile can be named with up to 8 characters, either numbers or letters. And then it's basically like doing any other ballistic solver. You input your G1 or G7 drag standard, you put in your muzzle velocity, you put in your sight height, you put in your zero range. Now the zero range doesn't have to be 100 or 200, it can be any distance, which is kind of cool. I just use 100 yards, so that function was pretty much wasted on me. Now if you use the BDC as the drop unit, you also can put in your turret temperature and turret elevation. So if you have a custom turret built, you can input what that was calibrated for. Now I don't use BDC, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that function because quite frankly I don't know enough about it, but it's built right into this rangefinder. Now the other cool thing about this rangefinder is that you can edit and you can do all of your trajectory validation right on the unit. So if you go out and shoot and see that your correction's too high or too low, you can go right in here and adjust the muzzle velocity or adjust the bullet's BC. So what I did was I just took the corrections when I built my profiles. I took all the correction data, in other words the input, the BC, velocity, all that, right off my Kestrel, my 5700 Elite, and input it right into this rangefinder. Then I took it out in the woods and bounced all the way out to 1400 yards, which is its max range, and from 200 to 1400 yards, it was in within 1/10 of a minute of angle of my Kestrel, so good enough for me. Okay, as a ballistic rangefinder, the BR2500 has its own onboard sensors that will measure station pressure in inches of mercury, temperature in Fahrenheit, and inclination to the target. Those things are always updating so that when you range a target at 1400 yards and in, it will give you a correction based on those conditions. Now if you want to use this as a straight up rangefinder, you can just select that when you're in the menu screen to say range only, and it just works like a regular rangefinder. The thing that sets us apart a little bit is that if you're 1400 yards and in, when you range a target, it will give you the line of sight range, and then it will give you the horizontal distance as well right after that first number. Now over 1400 yards doesn't give you anything except the range. Now if at any time you want to know what the station pressure is or the temperature or the inclination angle, you can just press this front arrow after you range a target and it'll give you all those numbers. So if you're using a ballistic solver that you want to input numbers into, you can use this to measure those environmental conditions just like you would on a Kestrel. It also gives you an approximate altitude based on pressure. So if you're using something that you want to put the altitude in instead of station pressure, that option is there. Alright guys, there's my little spiel on the BR2500. Look for our full review coming in December. I want to use this through the rest of hunting season. And for the next month or so, I'm going to use only the BR2500 for every shot I take that requires a rangefinder. Now, some of my initial thoughts on this rangefinder are that it works very well. I think with the 3/4 by 1.5 mil laser beam divergence, It is accurate enough to use on small targets at long range, such as antelope out in sagebrush. We took this to Wyoming, and I actually ranged some antelope from prone, laying down behind the gun, and had no problem with it. You know, time will tell on how the water resistance is when I get through deer season here. It's late October in North Idaho, and it's going to be wet. I guarantee it. I don't think I'm going to have a problem, though. You know, if you're interested in something like this, that's a full-featured rangefinder with a ballistic solver in it, you could certainly do worse than checking out the BR2500. But look for that review in December. Until then, thanks for watching. See you next time.